God. En ek hoop die toekoms sal vir een
An Act of Defiance is a movie that chronicles Braam Fischer's fight to save Nelson Mandela from the gallows. Fischer was an Afrikaner who became famous for legally defending the Rivonia trialists in 1963. Among them, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada and Govan. In a time where racial segregation was rife, Braam's conscience forced him to reject his own heritage and be ostracized by his own people when he showed a level of courage and sacrifice by siding with those on trial. Now, the movie is about courage, defiance, and one that spreads the message of equality. Joining us now in studio is director Jean van der Velde and Antoinette Louw, who plays the role of Fischer's wife, Molly. It's great to have you both in studio. Thank you so much for making it.
Thank you, and happy Freedom Day.
Thank you very much. Happy Freedom Day to you too. Yeah. Jean, let me start with you. The story of Braam is one that may not be familiar with a lot of people. I think when we look at the past of our past and where we've been and some of the key role players, we'll hear the story of Nelson Mandela, of Walter Sisulu, but not so often of Braam. Why was it so important for you to bring it to the fore?
Because Braam Fischer was a very special man. Because he was Afrikaner. And he had it all. He had a wife, children, good job, prospects. He came from a very wealthy family. But in his mind, he knew this prosperity, this wealth, wasn't built on equality. He was living in a world that freedom wasn't there. It was apartheid. So he chose to follow his feelings, and he chose to go against his own breed, if one can say so, and fight for equal rights for everybody. And that is, I had never heard before. Like 5 years ago, I didn't know of Braam Fischer. But when I started reading and researching, I thought, my God, this is a wonderful story. And it's a very brave man. And I wouldn't know if I was faced with the choices he had to make, sacrificing his life, his family, if I would have made them. But he did so. And like the other trialists, they really gave their lives not for their own benefits. They gave their lives for a better world in the future and for other people.
And so bring us into his character as a man. What are some of the character traits that you have come to learn about when it comes to Braam as a figure?
Yeah, I was so surprised because he wasn't like the guy with the big mouth and shouting. And he was like, there's an African saying, as far as I know, a good leader has bad breath, meaning a good leader doesn't talk too much, he listens. And Braam Fischer listened, and he was gentle and caring, and he wasn't like pushing and shouting, you know. He was humble. And I think a good leader should be humble because he's not serving his own good, he's serving the people. So he should listen to the people and be humble and serving them. And that is what I got to learn,
Antoinette, you play the role of Molly, who was obviously Braam's wife. Tell us about just some of the things that you learned having to, act as a wife of someone who sacrificed so much, who sacrificed his family, who sacrificed himself, the opportunities that, lay before him, all in the name of wanting to bring about a change in our society.
Molly was... like Jean said, Braam was the more soft-spoken one, and he didn't really know if he should take this case. And Molly was the one who said, "You need to do this." We didn't fall in love just to bring up a family. They really wanted to make the world a better place.
I think that's so important what you're saying, because I think oftentimes the role of women in the struggle for freedom is not really recognized. And so tell us about just consciously how you had to prepare for this role and the process that you went through.
Well, as many actors do, I did a lot of research. I read all the books, documentaries, spoke to Ruth, the oldest daughter, and tried to find something that I can relate to. And luckily that was very easy to do, because as an Afrikaans-speaking person, I related 100% to what they stood for and their vision for this country. And also, Braam was originally from Bloemfontein, and I'm originally from Bloemfontein, so there was a lovely connection.
In today's world, we see in as much as there's been so many efforts to try and make sure that there is equality in our society, especially where men and women are concerned, just you having played this role of Molly, what is your hope for women empowerment in this country going forward?
To step into their own shoes and not to wait for society to empower them, because it starts with myself.
Oh, that's very powerful. Yeah. And John, for you, what is it that you would like for the broader broader African community to take away from seeing a movie like this, to take away from this man who was such a tall figure and yet is not that much celebrated?
No, what I never knew, that at the Rivonia trial, I always thought there were only black people. But there were black people, white people, colored people, Kathrada. They were Jewish, they were Christian, so they were all together. And I mean, we should realize that we're all together, we're all human beings. So we should stop, with all these separating ideologies. I mean, we should realize that, and that was so important for me. I thought it was black-white, but it's black-white and 50 shades, at least, of grey in between. So we should honor diversity and embrace each other.
And so we're heading to the polls in about a week's time, and today obviously we're celebrating Freedom Day. Just your message to the broader South African community.
Oh, please embrace each other. And that's the most important thing. And I think the leaders should listen and don't talk too much. Just listen to what you're a servant of society.
Just have
don't
that
enrich yourself, enrich society. That's what it's all about.
Bad breath.
Yeah, bad breath. It's very good.
Thank you very much, Jean, and to you, Antoinette. So that was Jean van der Velde and Antoinette Louw talking to us about the movie An Act of Defiance, the movie which chronicles Braam Fischer, who was the lawyer that represented the Rivonia trialists back in 1963.